Well, thank you for your time, and good afternoon to you. I'm sorry, if you can unmute, I think you're muted. So kindly unmute for us.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Right, you're audible.
Thank you.
So,
am I okay?
Coming from the other side, especially, should I mention Alexander Afenyomakin's side of the House, do you agree with the Speaker of turning down the request of your leader and then deciding that he's coming on the 16th of December?
Well, maybe point of correction before we get to the question. There is no side as Afenyomakin's side. There's only a majority side and a minority side. And on this particular occasion, I'm very sure that you are referring to the majority side. So I'll answer the question.
If you say so.
The request from the majority to the Speaker is premised on Article 112, Clause 3, which gives the mandate to 15% of members of Parliament to recall parliamentary sitting. And that is what the majority leader did by way of posting the request. And if you read Article 112, Clause 3, there is no expression of discretion in 1/3 of the provision, because whether or not to convene is not discretionary, but the discretion is only in the third quarter when to bring a sitting. The constitutional clause says that upon a request by 50% of members of Parliament, you are enjoined. It is mandatory to call within 7 days. But what I feel could be discretionary is the timing of the call within the 7 days. So it is not discretionary. So when the Speaker wrote to say that I declined the request because I'm expressing my discretion, what I would say to that statement is that there is no discretion in that constitutional clause. It says the Speaker shall, and it is not discretionary. So the recall is mandatory, but within the 7 days, the discretion is either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But the request to recall is mandatory. So the Speaker didn't have any discretion to exercise at all. He ought to act according to the Constitution to recall, but of course exercising the discretion within the 7 days of the recall. That's what I understand. So it is ill in the mouth of the Speaker to say that I have declined because I'm expressing my discretion negatively towards your request. I want to put it on record that constitutional provision does not carry any discretion. It is mandatory on the Speaker to recall.
I'm sure. Well, the Speaker is a lawyer, and so is you. Is that to say that the Speaker, you think that in the face of the law, the Speaker just looked into it and breached it without knowing what the right thing to do?
What I'm saying that by the text of the law, the Speaker only needs service of the request. And if the applicants have fulfilled the constitutional request of 15%, then the onus is on the Speaker to recall. And it is not discretionary, it is mandatory. And the discretion is only when the Constitution says within 7 days. It did not say 1 day, 2 days, but within the 7 days. You could exercise your discretion to recall within the 7 days. That is what I understand. So the Speaker doesn't have any discretion to exercise by way of accepting or declining. And to meet the constitutional expectation is to do the recall within the 7 days. Simple.
So what's going to happen now? Because you seem to have been quiet about it after the Speaker's response to Leader Afenyo
I
Markin.
was not going to speak. I am only trying to explain the way I understand the Constitution.
Right.
I wasn't going to speak either for or against the... But again, going to the Supreme Court, I would have thought that we should have asked for consequential orders and direction. Because if the Supreme Court did the interpretation without more, yes, the request has been done as prayed at the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court should interpret. So the Supreme Court has interpreted. So I am thinking that the applicants ought to have asked for consequential orders directed at persons or personalities or positional people, so that in the event that they did not respond to the constitutional direction, then the consequences will be there for them to follow. But when you ask the Supreme Court to just interpret the constitutional provision, that is what the Supreme Court has done.
That is probably because they did not know that this was going to happen going forward, because after the ruling, the Speaker hadn't called the House. So
no, but when you ask the Constitution, the Supreme Court to do a constitutional interpretation, it is not enough for the Supreme Court to do the constitutional interpretation and leave it hanging.
Right.
And then you go by pursuant to this interpretation. If it goes along the way that I am suggesting, then tell Mr. A or B to do A, B, C, D. Then the Supreme Court will go the further length of interpreting and telling whoever you have summoned before the Supreme Court to do matter A, matter B, matter C. But I'm saying that as far as I understand, the Supreme Court finished its work by doing the interpretation, because there was nothing before them to do by way of orders or the direction.
Right. So we'll
in fact,
see.
I didn't speak to this earlier on because I had not seen the application.
Yeah.
But having seen the application, I think that the application should have requested the court to make consequential orders directed at persons or people in position.
Right.
And this is what the application did not envisage.
Right.
That is why we appear to have a stalemate as to who does what, pursuant to the interpretation.
So as it stands now, we're seeing you on the 16th of December.
Sure. We have to come because the Constitution is speaking to us to come back to Parliament.
Okay.
So we'll be there.